And now that we are done with the co-main and main event discussions, let's hop into the rest of UFC 299 because the amazing fights just keep on rolling. We first will make a stop in the 170-pound division, as in the featured bout of the evening, Kevin Holland, Big Mouth, is back in action, facing a 19-fight Bellator veteran, making his long-awaited UFC debut, Michael Venom Page. After losing a split decision in September of 2023 to Jack Della Maddalena, who we will discuss next, Kevin Holland is back in action, looking to get back into the win column, one of the most fun fighters in UFC history, and especially current day in the promotion. After winning on Dana White's Contender Series in June of 2018, Kevin Holland made a short notice debut into the UFC in August of that same year in a losing effort to Thiago Santos. And including that fight, up until his most recent bout in September of 2023, he has fought 20 times, far and away the most active fighter over the last 5 years. And he looks to right the ship early on in 2024, and it's by welcoming a longtime Bellator veteran, the 36-year-old Michael Page of England. Michael Page has an overall record of 21 wins and 2 losses. In Bellator specifically, 17 wins to 2 losses. The only 2 losses in the promotion were to Logan Storley in 2022 and Douglas Lima in 2019. At those respective times, those 2 guys were at the top of their game and at the top of their divisions. It will have been almost 1 full year since MVP's last fight. It was March 10th of 2023 when he got a 26-second TKO via leg kicks against Goichi Yamauchi. 16 of his 21 victories have come by finish. He's won 7 of his last 8 fights. He is an electric fighter that a lot of people enjoy watching. Pair that with Kevin Holland, who is never in a boring fight. I look for this to be fireworks for as long or as short as this fight goes. It's scheduled for 3 5-minute rounds. We'll see if it goes to the judges' scorecards. And the odds for this one are very close. I believe Kevin Holland's around the minus 130 favorite area. So MVP coming into his debut as an underdog, as I believe he rightfully should. I think those odds are relatively accurate. You got to think here at 36. He's entering out of his prime. So is it a similar stance to Michael Chandler, where I'm not here for a long time, but I'm here for a good time? Can Michael Venom Page make the same type of impact that we have seen Michael Chandler do? Beating Kevin Holland this Saturday would be one heck of a way to start. We stay in the welterweight division, as the number 4 ranked Gilbert Burns will be welcoming the number 11 ranked Jack Della Maddalena to the division's top 5. Gilbert Burns last fought May 6th of 2023 in a losing effort to Bilal Muhammad, but prior to that had won 2 straight fights versus Jorge Masvidal and versus Neil Magny. And really, if you want to go even before that, he's fought nothing but the best in the world. Khamzat Chimaev, Stephen Thompson, Kamaru Usman in a title fight where people, I think, forget he damn near knocked out Kamaru Usman in the first round of their bout. He beat Tyron Woodley, Damian Maia en route to getting that title shot. Gilbert Burns' experience is close to being unmatched right now amongst the top 15 at welterweight. And Jack Della Maddalena, that is the biggest glaring hole here, is that strength of schedule for Gilbert and the experience that he brings in, including championship contention experience to Jackie Moon, as I like to call him.
What did I say? You said that's my seat.
That being said, Jack Della Maddalena has recorded a 6-0 record. He is perfect in the UFC thus far after earning his contract on Dana White's Contender Series in 2021 in an amazing fight with Ange Losa. He started his UFC tenure with 4 straight first-round knockouts, even with one of those coming to Randy Brown. But since then, he's had 2 performances that haven't quite awed the crowd as much as those first 4. The first one was July of last year, where he fought a short notice opponent, Basile Hafez, who just got announced to be fighting Mickey Gall in the near future, I believe in May, if I'm not mistaken. So keep your eyes out on that one. Hafez brought the fight to Jack. It was a very, very fun fight. It was a dog fight if I've ever seen it, and it went to a split decision. Hafez almost pulled off one of the biggest upsets of 2023. To be fair, Jack Della Maddalena, the weight cutting and the opponent switching and all that, I think it was a bad combination to put on another first round knockout performance. Now, could he have put on a better performance? Yes. I think his fight IQ lacked a lot in that fight. He was pulling guard, trying to pull submissions when he's not necessarily known for that. And that allowed Hafez to garner a ton of ground and pound and control time. But Jack did get the victory, turned around just 2 months later. So again, a weight cut 2 months after this weight cut, I believe, played a factor in his performance against Kevin Holland. That fight was a very good scrap, though, for what it's worth. Now both of them are fighting on the very same night, looking to get a win. I am a very big believer in Jack Della Maddalena. He's 16-2. He's from Australia. He's 27 years old. His hands are beautiful to watch when he's on the feet. I want to see now, with rest and recovery, a full training camp coming in, this is a humongous jump to go from Kevin Holland to Gilbert Burns, in my opinion, just because we know who Gilbert Burns has been in that cage with, has shared that octagon with, and he's a jack of all trades. He holds knockout power on the feet. He's a jiu-jitsu world champion. Look at his fight with Khamzat Chimaev and just how closely competitive that was. If Jack is not prepared and made improvements over these past, 6-7 months, he could be in for a rude awakening against the underdog on the betting slate, Gilbert Burns. Next, we go to 135 pounds, arguably the best division in the UFC right now, men's bantamweight, in a fight that is getting supremely underrated simply due to the fact that this card is absolutely loaded top to bottom. And that is a fight between the number 4 ranked former champion Petr Yan and the number 7 ranked and surging hot prospect Song Yadong. And to be honest with you, it feels weird calling Song Yadong.
Who?
To be honest, it feels weird to say Song Yadong is still a prospect. He's number 7 in the division. He's got 13 fights already in the UFC, but he's only 26 years old. He's not even in his prime yet. And I think he's, in that example, still a prospect regardless of his ranking. But I will say this, if he beats Petr Yan, I'll officially get rid of the prospect title, because then he will become a title challenger. Petr Yan, skill for skill, is one of the best fighters in the world. I do truly still believe that, but he's lost 3 fights in a row. He's lost 4 of his last 5 fights. The only victory was an incredible fight against Corey Sandhagen, my favorite fight of 2021, as a matter of fact. But you look at these losses, it's to Aljamain Sterling twice. The first one obviously was due to an illegal knee in a fight that Petr Yan was cruising in prior to that illegal strike happening. The second fight with Aljamain had a great performance. Tip the cap. Sean O'Malley, very back and forth, could have went either way. And then he did very convincingly lose to Merab Dvalishvili, but that win continues to age like a fine wine because everyone is getting ran through by Merab currently. So he's 31 years old, right in those prime years. I believe this could be a big bounce back spot for Petr Yan. I think this is the type of spot for him to say, y'all must have forgot just how damn good I am, just how good I was to make a championship run, to dismantle Jose Aldo en route to becoming the champion. I think this is a big time opportunity for Petr Yan. And if he loses here, makes it 5 out of 6, 4 in a row, all of a sudden, a number 4 ranked fighter in a division, is on the brink of maybe having to go to another promotion. And Song Yadong, on the other hand, has won 5 of his last 6. He's won 2 in a row over Ricky Simone, over Chris Gutierrez. His only loss in that span was to Corey Sandhagen in a 5-round fight where it got stopped at the end of round 4 due to a doctor stoppage from the damage that Corey had put on him. He is starting to rack up a very good resume in his own right, and this by far would be the biggest win of Song Yadong's young career. And if he can win here on the very same night that the champion is defending his title, and regardless of if O'Malley wins, even if Marlon Chito Vera wins, you're making storylines. And why is that? Marlon Chito Vera and Song Yadong fought back in May of 2020, and guess who won that fight? Song Yadong. So could we see a world where Marlon Vera pulls a Sean O'Malley and says, I want to fight Song Yadong next. I want to get revenge from a loss a few years back, just like Sean is doing, and that is how we got here in the first place to the UFC 299 main event. Merab, I know you deserve it. I'm not saying you should not be next for the title, but I'm just saying it's not that crazy, right? And my goodness, the prelim headliners between the number 5 ranked heavyweight in the world, Curtis Blaydes, and the absolute dominant force that is the number 7 ranked Jailton Almeida. This fight was originally scheduled to happen in November of last year. Curtis Blaydes had to pull out due to injury. In stepped the Black Beast, Derek Lewis. Almeida took it all 5 rounds in a very one-sided dominant showing where he got the decision victory over Derek. So many people were whining and complaining about that performance from Almeida as if he didn't just outclass Derek in every aspect of that fight. The guy, God forbid, doesn't get a first round stoppage for the first time in his UFC career, essentially, and people are coming at his neck. The fact of the matter is, Jailton Almeida is 6-0 in the UFC with 5 finishes, 4 of those 5 coming in the first round. He's one of the most elite prospects truly that there is in the UFC right now. He's 20-2. He's right in his prime at 32 years old. And the guy can fight at light heavyweight as well. And a lot of people think that if he loses to Curtis Blaydes, which there are a lot of people out there right now leaning Curtis, this is a pick'em right now on the money line at -110 apiece. Jailton could go back down to light heavyweight. And to be honest with you, I think he could run through that division too. So we'll see how this fight plays out. We know that Almeida looks to take down every single one of his opponents and dominate them on the ground. Well, that sounds awful familiar because so does Curtis Razor Blaydes. However, we've seen Curtis over the past few years clean up his striking, both defensively and especially offensively. He even knocked out Chris Daukaus. It's on my wall behind me. He did it in very clean fashion, I believe, in the second round back in March of 2022. He's won 3 of his last 4 fights. The only loss was to arguably still to this day the most dangerous man in the heavyweight division, Sergey Pavlovich. I'm very excited to see how this fight will play out. Here's the simple fact is we don't ever really get to see Curtis Blaydes defensively wrestle. So does he have good takedown defense? One would assume. He's an amazing, very accredited wrestler throughout his entire professional mixed martial arts and amateur wrestling career. Jailton Almeida, if he cannot get Curtis Blaydes down, can he really compete on the feet with Curtis Blaydes for 15 minutes? Because we've not seen Almeida get that chance or have that opportunity to do so because no one else has been able to stop his takedowns. Curtis Blaydes could be that guy. And I think should Almeida win this fight, he would be on the short list of title contenders at heavyweight with Tom Aspinall currently as the interim champion. We don't know what the heck's going on with Stipe Miocic and John Jones. It's assumed that they still want to fight each other. John's injured. He's in PFL talking about Francis Ngannou. I don't know what's going to happen, but if they're still waiting to clear up their stuff at the end of the year, I would be perfectly fine with Almeida versus Aspinall. But again, Almeida's got to get through Curtis Razor Blaydes first. And that's someone that not a lot of people have been able to do or have been able to say that they've went through in this division. And most of the people that have went through Curtis Blaydes have became a UFC champion, i.e. Francis Ngannou, 2 different times. Well, not 2 times as a champion, but he beat Curtis 2 times and then became a champion. You get the point. Then at women's flyweight, we have the number 4 ranked former title challenger, Katlyn Cerminara, formerly known as Katlyn Chookagian. She is taking on Maycee Barber, who is on the biggest run of her UFC career. There is no one that gatekeeps a shot into the top 3 and or a title shot opportunity more than Katlyn Cerminara. She's won 4 of her last 5 fights, which I think people tend to forget. The only loss was in October of 2022. Yes, she was inactive throughout all of 2023. That was to Manon Fior. Part of the inactivity from this past year and a half for Katlyn is the fact that she has went through 2 miscarriages in her personal life, and that is just a gut-wrenching, terrible story that we had to hear throughout media day from her. So I do wish her and her husband the best as they go throughout this journey. I can't even imagine trying to get into the cage and fight after going through all of that trauma. And she said this is her escape. That is her whole reason for fighting, is to put that out of the back of her mind and get into action here. And if she wins, she will make it 5 of her last 6 fights as victories. She's beaten Amanda Ribas, Jennifer Maia, Viviane Araújo, and Cynthia Calvillo. It will not come easy because there might not be more of a dog mentality at women's 125 than from Maycee the Future Barber. The 25-year-old Barber started out incredibly in her young career. She was super young when she won on Dana White's Contender Series. She surged through her first 4 opponents, if you want to count that one on the Contender and 3 in the UFC. All of those victories were by TKO, but she got halted. She got humbled, even some would say. She lost to Roxanne Modafferi and did suffer a torn ACL in that fight. Had to sit out 13 months before coming back and then losing to the current champion, Alexa Grasso. But since then, she has been on a tear. 5 fights in a row, all by victory, and each one has been a better performance. Her fight with Miranda Maverick arguably could have went the way of Maverick. Fear the Maverick is just coming off of a very big win a few weeks back. I believe it was at UFC 297, if I remember correctly. And then she beat Montana De La Rosa, Jessica Ai, Andrea Lee, and then had one of the best fights of 2023 and maybe the best women's fight of 2023. There was also a great one that featured Irene Aldana in December of 2023, but this is up there with it, and that was against Amanda Ribas, where she finished her via TKO 3 minutes and 42 seconds into the second round. So Maycee Barber will look to crack into the top 5 for the first time in her career and make it 6 straight wins. She, again, just has that dog mentality. She likes to make fights ugly. She is super aggressive, keeps a very high pace. She's only 25 years old, so not even in her prime years yet. For Katlyn, she's been there. She's done that. She's fought all of the best fighters at 125 pounds. Will she utilize her long reach and the way in which she fights with her boxing and keeping opponents at range? Will she be able to keep Barber away enough so that she can get a victory? In the lightweight division, we have number 6 ranked Mateusz Gamrot and number 11 ranked former lightweight champion of the world, Rafael dos Anjos. Gamrot has a 6-2 record in the UFC since debuting back in October of 2020, and he's won 2 back-to-back fights, one over Rafael Fiziev, where we did see an and I'll tell you what, bantamweight just keeps on coming.
What do you mean by that?
Because we have the number 13 ranked Pedro Munhoz taking on the surging on the outside looking in Kyler Phillips. Pedro lost to Marlon Chito Vera at UFC 292 back in August. That is what got Marlon Chito Vera this title to main event this weekend's card. And for Kyler Phillips, he's someone that is the definition of just flying under the radar. But now here he is looking to crack into the top 15. He's 5-1 in the UFC. The only loss to Raulian Paiva via majority decision back in July of 2021. So I think that's the most glaring thing for me, is just the inactivity of Kyler Phillips. He enters this fight as a relatively big favorite. I think Pedro Munhoz is a very live dog in this fight. You look at just in August, his most recent fight, it was no landslide victory for Marlon Chito Vera. It was a very close fight. And then before that, he beat Chris Gutierrez and halted him from surging up further into the rankings. And prior to that, he had a very good fight with Sean O'Malley. And by no means was he out of that fight. That was a fight that arguably Pedro Munhoz was even winning before it got stopped due to the eye poke. I think this is going to be a very, very back and forth, just high level technical fight at 135 pounds on the prelims. You've got to tune in to this fight because Kyler Phillips gets a chance to crack into the top 15. Pedro Munhoz gets a chance to once again play spoiler to someone surging and hold his spot. And truthfully, the fun just keeps going throughout the remainder of the prelims. We've got Yon Cutelaba versus Felipe Lins at light heavyweight, Michel Pereira versus Michael Oleksiejczuk at middleweight, which I think is actually going to be a really, really fun stylistic clash. We've got a guy in the heavyweight division. I don't want to mess up his name. That means I'm probably going to mess up his name. Robles Despage. That's not right, but that's what I'm going to say. He's 4-0, undefeated, kickboxing phenom, 6'7", 86-inch reach, and he's facing Josh Parisian. Robles, his last 3 fights have combined for 19 seconds. You probably don't want to blink during that fight. CJ Vergara is taking on a very dangerous young up-and-comer in Asu Almabayev, and the first fight of the night is a really fun scrap at women's flyweight between Joanne Wood, who I believe may or may not be retiring, win or lose in this fight, and Marina Moroz. It's actually a rematch a few years in the making. UFC 299 is unbelievable. One of the best cards of all time. Arguably the best card of 2024, but UFC 300 would like to have a talk with you coming up next month, April 13th. The fact that we're getting those cards back to back is unbelievable, and I am here for it as a fight fan. If you enjoyed the breakdown of the main card and prelims, be sure to drop a like on this video. Subscribe to the channel if you are new so you never miss my breakdowns of all of the biggest storylines every single week of all of the best fights. I give my recap of all the most meaningful results and my thoughts and opinions on breaking MMA news and fight announcements as well. Join the community on social media at the BAJ MMA and follow on your favorite audio listening platform, including Spotify and Apple, if you like one long form podcast episode. Enjoy the fights this weekend, and I will see you in the next video.